What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week of the Brezin F1 podcast. We're just wrapping up the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at Jeddah. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we hope you enjoy. And we are back.
Yep.
Welcome back to another week of the Brezin F1 podcast. I'm your co-host, Liam.
Andrew, as always.
We are coming off of a huge race weekend.
Yeah,
and we're actually recording a little after. We had a COVID issue going on.
Yep.
But we're coming to you. It's Tuesday night, and we have a full packed podcast for you today.
Yeah. So normally Liam and I will talk during the race. We'll talk after the race. We'll record hopefully pretty soon after the race.
Yeah.
We haven't talked much.
We actually haven't. I'm kind of happy that we saved everything for this podcast.
Yeah.
Because usually we get on something that we're talking about, and we're just like, no, stop, save it for the pod.
Yeah, it gets too juicy sometimes.
It does, yeah, because you get deep into the conversation.
Yeah, so we're coming pretty raw right now.
This is raw.
Call it raw.
Yeah, this is raw. Well, I mean, we'll start off with that quali round.
Yeah,
that was banana lands. I'll say it again.
Liam's catchphrase.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think I stole that from someone. I'm not sure who it was, but yeah, that was pretty fire. That was crazy.
The big story from Q1, obviously Hamilton. I think for qualifying we'll do Q1, 2, 3 breakdown, and then we'll talk about the top 10 towards the end of qualifying. So sure. Off the bat, Q1 Hamilton not getting through the next round of qualifying, first time since 2009.
2009 on merit.
Based on merit, yeah. I think it was 2017 Brazil. He crashed out.
Yeah.
So this is based just on race pace alone.
He just didn't have it. I honestly think so. Prior to, obviously, the Grand Prix and qualifying rounds, we weren't sure if the Grand Prix was going to happen.
That too, yeah.
Because there was, bombing like 10 kilometers away? Or was it 10 kilometers or something? Was it 10 miles? 20?
I mean, if you're getting bombed anywhere within
it's kind of crazy,
your
but
own
that's
country, I would be tough to say, let's go with it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's normal for that country.
I know, but...
You know what I mean?
It is, but how often do they host, an international sanctioned event like this, where the whole world scale is watching?
Not a lot. That facility, Jeddah track, is huge.
Oh, it's beautiful too. Beautiful.
Probably the safest place in Saudi Arabia.
You would think so, yeah, but it's also a high target if you think about it.
Yeah, I know.
Having the money that's there, the popularity, and all the people there, it's kind of a hot spot.
It is a hot spot. Yeah. Could you imagine, though, if anything happened in the track?
Well, a lot of the drivers were against it.
I know, Lewis was against it. You know what I honestly think? I honestly think that Lewis, he was against it. Rightfully so. I totally understand his view. And Toto went ahead and he was saying that it's normal for this country. He said that we should race. So you got your team principal and your number one driver not on the same page. And did Lewis just give Toto a big fuck you in Q1? Did he just say,
oh my God.
I don't know.
You think it's going to go that deep?
I think he's that kind of guy.
I mean, obviously Lewis is
he's an activist.
He's a philanthropist. He's very much about, the social media and getting the social justice platform out there.
The social aspect of life in general.
But at the same time, he's a pretty hardcore competitor.
For sure.
And knowing what happened last season, obviously, how close he came to winning his 8th title. Mm-hmm. I think this year he's more hungry than ever. Maybe the car's not performing as hungry as it should be.
See, I don't know.
I don't think he's going to throw the bag, dog.
Well, you got George Russell, who was P4 at the end of Q1.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton was the cars can't be that different. Lewis Hamilton had the fastest track time around that circuit last year. When they did that race.
That's last year.
Exactly.
It's the new regulations, right?
So how do you drop? He lost. I think it was his lap time. I'm gonna actually check right now. I'll check.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've seen before the disconnect with drivers and their and their cars. Look at Norris and Ricciardo. Mm-hmm. Especially last season, and maybe even a little bit this year too, just with where they qualified this past race. But Norris and Ricciardo had a big disconnect a lot of the time. Even sometimes with the Aston Martin last year, Vettel and Stroll were disconnect. Yes. I mean, it happens. You do see gaps, but I mean, from P4 to P17, that's huge. And he was showing who it is too. It's Hamilton and Russell. It's not a couple scrubs.
Yeah, he was 3 seconds off his qualifying pace last year.
That's rough.
3 seconds. That's a lot in Formula One.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're coming from. I think his Q3 was a minute 27 point. Or sorry, yeah, 127 point.
From last year.
From last year, This year he was a minute 30.6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even then, like Checo's qualifying lap was a minute 28.2.
Yeah, so it does show that the cars are going
The
slower.
cars are going slower.
But still.
I love the fact, like, they can follow so close.
Yeah.
They can come back after DRS pass like that. Like, nothing is
I know.
Sorry, we'll stay on qualifying. See, we're getting ahead of ourselves now because we're just we're coming off the top we're just rolling with the combo.
So that was Q1, the big surprise. I mean, the other competitors were like Latifi didn't get through.
Yeah.
Who else is it?
I think both the Williams. I don't know if Albon got in. I'm almost positive he didn't get in Q2. Let me just check here.
Hulkenberg and Stroll, did they get through?
I think Stroll did. I've got to log back onto this.
That's fine. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the bottom 5 that didn't go through, the outlier was Hamilton, clearly.
Yeah. So who didn't make it out of Q1? You had Hamilton, Albon, Hulkenberg, Latifi, and Tsunoda, who didn't start.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In that order from 15 to 20.
Yep.
And then your Q2, you had Lando, Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll. Schumacher obviously had that horrible. That was a frightening crash, man.
Yeah. So
33 Gs.
So just taking away from Q1, that's the Hamilton.
That was the biggest story of
through.
Q1. Biggest
and then
story of Q1.
Q2 was Schumacher's crash.
Yeah.
Like going as quick as he was through those that chicane.
Uh-huh.
People were saying even last year, like when they first went to Jeddah, that it was kind of a scary track.
It's like
because it is so flat out, but it's flat out with turns.
The curbs,
tight turns.
The curbs are high.
Yeah. Another track that's really flat out is Silverstone, but they're like long, winding, turns that you go through.
Yeah.
This track, like you're weaving, you're bobbing and weaving
quick
through
too. It's not like those sectors are long; they're short sectors. I think it's 27 turn circuit.
Yeah, and I mean for Schumacher to push like he was, it kind of gives like a lot of motivation and confidence to him, which I love because him coming out of the car last year with Haas, they obviously had their struggles, but now with the new vehicle, it's like we're ready to go,
and they're confident about it. They're confident about that new their new car this year.
Yeah, I think he was around P11 anyways. Like he was on the bubble. To even get into Q3 without the wreck.
He was actually, I think he was P10. He was P10? Right P10.
He was really close. So for him to go out the way he
Magnussen
did.
stole it from him.
Yeah, he did. He pipped him at the end.
Again, what a race for Magnussen too. We'll get to that.
But yeah, for Schumacher's case, obviously, like looking at it from the broadcast was terrifying. Yeah. They did a good job though, showing like not just like zooming in on the car because we've seen before like with soccer actually like Christian Eriksen from Denmark. He goes and collapses in the European Cup last summer, and they had the camera like fixated right on him for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
he's like laying lifeless on the ground.
It's probably not something that his family or his fans want to see.
So
especially him. Imagine you come out of it and you're just like, did they really just keep that on the video?
Yeah. So for F1 to not even show a replay until they figured out that he was actually okay.
They didn't. I was wondering, I'm like, why aren't they showing a replay? And then I was thinking, fuck, he could be hurt.
Yeah. So for them to do that,
get in the car.
It was good for F1. It's we chirp F1 in the FIA so many times, but that was thumbs up to them.
Thumbs up to the FIA.
For handling that properly. But yeah, he was able to get rushed to the hospital. Helicopter vac'd out of there. I think he came back the next morning to the
he was in the garage.
Yeah, so
during the race,
big ups to him. Obviously, he didn't race because the car was torn in half.
Dude, I think they're close to $1 million in repairing that car.
Jesus,
that's what I saw on ESPN F1.
If there's ever one team,
actually, we just shared it on our story.
Yeah, we did. Yep. Let's check our Instagram account, Bruzin.f1 Instagram.
Yep.
But yeah, if there's one team that doesn't need any financial like setbacks, it's Haas team.
Yeah, I know.
Not knowing what's going to happen in their future. But yeah, so he obviously walked away from it. Car was torn in half. It didn't race on Sunday. I don't really know what else. Was a big thing from Q2.
Q2, that was pretty much it. And then took them. It was like close to an hour to get that car cleaned up. Yeah. It was a long time. That was a long qualifying session. I think it ran close to like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was long.
But out of Q2, nothing much else happening after that. And then you just had your top 10 go through, which was you had your Leclerc, who I think set the fastest lap in Q2 also.
Yep.
It was Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, and Checo were your top 4. And then the others that made it into Q3 also were Russell, Alonso, Bottas, Pierre Gasly, Kevin Magnussen. That guy is just putting in shifts at the Haas car right now. I love watching him during the race. with that Hamilton battle. We're gonna get to that also.
Yep.
Can't get too far ahead of myself. But yeah, the biggest story in Q3 obviously is it's your Checo first pole ever.
First ever Mexican driver on pole.
Yeah, that was
pole for himself.
probably one of the most surprising stats I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well,
250 races.
Yeah,
That
for
was his
himself
first pole.
personally, yeah. Well, he's never had the opportunity, really.
Yeah, first time he's really in a competitive car.
Yeah, like
obviously.
we've seen, like I remember the Force India in like 2015 or something. He had kind of a quick car,
Mhm.
but that's when all the cars were more balanced.
Yeah.
He didn't have like the top two.
No.
So he was competitive there. He obviously didn't win or get any podiums because
Mhm.
it wasn't until Racing Point, last 2 seasons, where he actually made his first podium and then first ever win in the same year.
Yeah.
So
That was when they got that Mercedes.
yeah, the
Pink
2.0.
Mercedes. Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, I mean Checo, huge for him. Came out of nowhere.
He did.
Came soaring in through the clouds. Like
Yeah.
we were talking about how Verstappen is being Verstappen and how the Ferraris are finally competitive. It's amazing to see, and we were hoping for more of a 3 or 4 horse race. It looks like it's going to be a
Looks like
2 horse now.
Yeah,
With
I
just
mean,
Ferrari and Red Bull.
I think the pace of all the Ferrari powertrain cars, though,
Yes.
just like I was in shock seeing that the Mercedes powertrain vehicles, like their cars, were below like 10 to 20 on the grid, 10 to 16 at the end of it because they had like 3 DNFs, a DNS, and
Yeah.
Latifi crash.
If Russell didn't get into Q2 or into Q3, there would be no Mercedes powertrains in the top 10 for the first time. I think they said like 2006 or something.
That's crazy.
Something nuts like that.
So Ferrari's definitely come back with some great engineering, and
Yeah,
like
man.
we were saying last podcast, that stint that they had where they weren't that successful. It's kind of nice that they're, flapping their wings again.
Yeah.
And they got the horses running.
Yeah, they're making up for lost time.
They are, yeah. It's great. I love seeing it too. Like it's like I was saying about Kevin Magnussen before and the Ferrari with the Ferrari powered Haas. Like, could you ever even have thought of Kevin Magnussen battling it out with Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes?
Not really. I mean,
Or even him battling it out in, let's say,
in anything.
a Ferrari or an Alpine.
It's just because my memory of Magnussen is when they had him and Grosjean in that shitty ass Rich Energy car.
For 3 years.
And there were huge mechanical issues all the time. There were just 6 DNFs based on just unreliable parts and everything.
Yeah.
Slow car, and you would see them maybe around the 10th place, and then within 6-7 laps they just drop off, kind of like what they were last year, basically.
Yes.
Like if you ever saw Schumacher's name last year and then P13, it's like, wow, Mick's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you look away from the screen, come back 5 minutes later, he's P17.
You're like, how did this happen?
It's like, how? So that's kind of like how I knew Magnussen. I knew he was a good driver because he was better than Grosjean.
Oh, for sure.
I think Grosjean was brutes.
Yeah, he wasn't the best. He should stay in IndyCar.
Yeah. But I think Magnussen's he's a better driver, and he was deserving of a better car. I mean, I don't think he should jump to the moon and go to McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari,
No.
but for seeing this year more than ever, there is more balance, there is more parity in the cars and
Mhm.
teams. So for him to be doing as well as he is, first of all, that's a huge success story for Haas and for him coming back like he is. That's amazing. But I think the real main story is just, where is Mercedes?
I don't know.
Because
I don't know.
other than George
I love
getting to the top 10, and then obviously we'll get to the race and how that finished out, there's been nothing really this year. Because Lewis got his random podium last week in Bahrain,
yeah.
but that's kind of a bonus, but undeserved.
Yeah.
They haven't really had much going on for them this year.
No.
And it's just, they're drifting so far away from what they're used to, and they're finally seeing adversity for the first time. And we're really going to see the test of character between Hamilton, Russell, and especially Toto.
Yeah, and I think that Mercedes has always been on top of the engineering and the improving. Obviously, you can't be an 8-time world or constructors champion, you know what I mean, without improving your car and building new parts, components, and stuff like that. So seeing them not coming out of the gate with new parts. When we saw their aero package where they had the no side pods, right, which were like, oh god, is this some Mercedes ingenious wizardry? We have no idea.
Yeah.
But you also got to remember and think Ferrari and Red Bull and Alpine, even these teams at the top, they're not going to be slowing down their progression. So Mercedes is in a tough spot because they haven't really shown much progression since the preseason testing.
Right.
So all these teams they figured out the porpoising. It didn't really look like Mercedes figured out the porpoising issue. Their car was still bouncing like crazy around the track. So I think that it's going to be tough for them to keep up with these other teams in the next 3 races because they're just going to keep improving. They've already gotten past that hill, that porpoising hill.
Yeah.
And I know it's probably maybe tough for them to get parts right now shipped with everything that's going on with Russia. But I mean, that's going to be tough for every other team. And like we've said before, we know that Mercedes was really strong in the power and the durability department. But this year, it looks like it's a lot on the aero package and your chassis, the weight of the car. We know that they're heavier. The engines now, like they got to compete. Like Red Bull powertrains, obviously they had the hiccup in Bahrain, but they were fucking blistering.
Yeah, real quick.
And same with Ferrari. Like you have 2 solid engines in the mix, and your Mercedes is just nowhere to be found.
And don't count out the Renault right now too in the Alpine car.
That battle between Ocon and Alonso was epic.
All right, let's get to the race.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to the race now.
So
okay.
Just the big story of Q3 and of all qualifying, Checo getting his podium.
Yes, huge. We'll do the lap times real quick. Sorry to cut you off. No, we had Checo at a 128.2, Leclerc at a 128.225. He was 2/10 or 2/100ths behind Checo.
So tight, eh?
Sainz was a 128.4 and Verstappen was a 128.4. He was 0.6 behind Sainz. Yeah. So really,
it's one of the first times in a long time we've seen Max outqualified by any teammate.
I know. Yeah, that was bizarre. I mean, it wasn't really bizarre because I fully want to give Checo deserves every bit of that pole position, and he put in a lap. I like seeing that. You had like last year, it was kind of like it was the Lewis and Max battle. So Checo was kind of playing that, but now it's the team game kind of, right? Now it's good to see like he's like, okay, well, I can compete just as good as Max. I'm putting out these, flying qualifying laps, and I'm just fucking. He's ready to do it. I would love to see him win a couple races this year. It'd be great, and I'd love to see the battle at the top between these 4 drivers. I want Sainz to get a win this year. Sorry, I'm getting off track.
No, I think he will. I think Sainz will probably get there. He'll get his moment.
And then I want to say this for record. I want Mick Schumacher to go top 10 in one of the races this year, which I don't think is a far stretch.
Nope.
And I will dress in an entire racing suit with a helmet for the duration of the podcast. I promise you I'll do that.
That's on your wish list or your
It's on my wish list, and I want to wear a racing suit because I want to drive a fucking race car one day.
I'll do the same thing. I'll just wear a snowsuit because I don't have a racing suit.
I don't have one, but I can get one. I could definitely get one. But yeah, that's it. If Mick Schumacher goes top 10,
get some things.
Yes, if he goes top 10, I will wear a full race suit, a racing helmet for the duration of the podcast. You will not see my face.
That'd be a good
That's
thing.
what we're gonna do.
I would get your bike in there, like
I should, yeah.
Yeah, like fish it. Yeah, fish it through.
Just like how they drink water. All right, we'll get to the race.
Put a breathing tube in your microphone. We'll get to the race, but the last thing I just want to say real quick before we get to the race, with Checo and with Red Bull, like the big goal is always to get Max a world championship.
Yeah,
and we've seen before how close he's been and how competitive he is, having teammates that aren't as competitive. I mean, before Checo, it would have been Ricciardo.
Yes,
his most competitive teammate. You had the Albon. Oh, you had Gasly.
Gasly, Albon, not competitive at all.
So now that Max has his title, I think with Checo coming into the team last year, that was Red Bull's attempt to say, okay, now we're going to fight for the championship. We have a better driver, more experienced driver. We know Checo can perform. It took him a while to get used to the car, like we've seen many times before with other drivers.
He adapted.
Took him a while to get adjusted, but he got there towards the end of the season, and obviously the biggest payoff coming in Abu Dhabi in the last race of the season.
Yeah.
So this year it's like, now I think they're fully invested in the team to win a Constructors. Because it's eluded them from so long. I think did they win it when Vettel won the titles?
They won it.
They must have had it.
Those 4 years they won it.
Yeah, because they had Mark Webber there too.
Yeah, they won it those 4 years.
So I mean, it's been 8 seasons basically.
8 seasons, yeah. So it was Red Bull for those 4 years, and then Braun
4,
GP,
and then 8. Okay, then Braun, and then 8 Mercedes.
Mercedes, yeah.
So it's been a minute.
It has been, yeah.
And
I agree with you.
I think now this is gonna make their big time to show. Okay, we're gonna go 100% into the team. Max, we're still going to fight for you. Checo, if you get a win, you get a win. If you take it away from Max, you take it away from Max. But it's still points to Red Bull, so they can't be too pissed by it.
Yep.
Whereas we saw it last year, even with Albon before too, we saw kind of like the Lewis effect a little bit. Like if Max was a bit behind, he would get the pass through.
Yes.
I don't think it's happening this year. I think, Christian Horner's going to let the boys fight, let them race.
Yep.
And as long as they don't both crash out, if they finish P1, P2 in any order,
who looks like the genius?
I think they're fine with that.
Christian Horner.
Yeah, and he even said before too, like, sorry, to cut you
no,
off.
go ahead.
I think he said before too, like in an interview, saying how, I think you told me this. He's talking about the difference between Red Bull and Mercedes, and saying how Mercedes has never had to fight for anything. They've been like a financial guru for so long.
They're a well-oiled, well-lubed machine already.
And with Red Bull, that's kind of like what Toto came in and like inherited.
Yeah.
Toto or Christian Horner's had to fight for everything.
Yeah. Well, you had Ross Brawn. Ross Brawn pretty much created that entire
right.
Mercedes team, and then Toto just came in and looked like the genius. Which I don't give any discredit to Toto. I think he's great in the business aspect of Formula One.
He's done a hell of a job. Yeah.
And he's an owner? He's an owner of fucking Mercedes AMG. He's an owner of the team. Yeah, it's great for him for a financial side. It's also great for him publicly, winning all these constructors titles and drivers champions, right? But yeah, no, I think that either way it pans out this year. So if you have Ferrari and Leclerc winning, or Sainz winning, that's their last. I think drivers championship was 2007 with Kimi.
I think so.
Kimi won 2007. So if you had a Ferrari drivers champion since then, so you have 2007 to now, and then you had Vettel being the last Red Bull champion to last year. Mm-hmm. Think about the craziness of the last
15
years in Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nothing but Mercedes Hamilton.
Yeah,
now
really.
It's like feels like we're coming into a new era of these drivers. Like you have your Verstappen, your Leclerc, your Sainz, your Norris, all these young guns. They're the new generation of F1. They're the ones that are going to be around for a long time. They're like they're like when Lewis Hamilton was like 2008, 2009.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like now that's dawning on them, and I think that there's a lot of better. No, I don't want to say better drivers, but I think there's a lot of really good drivers in this generation that I don't want to say more competitive, but I want to say that I hope there's going to be a lot more tighter races, tighter seasons for like the years to come.
Yeah, for sure. And Ferrari showing big signs, big improvements.
Yeah.
And like we touched on a couple podcasts ago, the duo of Leclerc and Sainz, like that, they can have that for 10 years.
They could.
Because it's like, where do you go from Ferrari? Like if they can sustain a winning culture with Ferrari with these two guys, they're not going to leave.
I would love to see Mick Schumacher in a Ferrari one day, though.
That's the dream, but like
I know that'd be crazy, though. Could you imagine?
It's gotta be Sainz.
Sainz gets booted.
It's gotta be Sainz that goes. Leclerc's.
I know they're gonna keep
Leclerc's.
Leclerc's the Ferrari golden boy.
Yeah, he's there. He's like the Max. Like he's gonna be there forever.
He's their boy.
That'd be crazy though.
Yeah,
I think everyone kind of wanted that or expected that.
I think so too. Yeah, I love Leclerc. Great guy.
All right, to the race.
Lap
1. That race to the first turn. Not one of the longer straights that we have in the circuit.
No.
Or in the race calendar.
I think it's the circuit.
Yeah, the circuit.
Yeah, that's the circuit.
Right,
it is the circuit.
Not one of the longest straights, so that that quick dash. It's like a 50-yard or 50-meter sprint.
Yeah, pretty much.
To the first corner. Doesn't allow for much passing opportunity. I mean, Checo did a good job getting that inside line, taking the advantage that he had. The big jump up was Verstappen going from P4 to P3 in that little exchange, getting past Carlos Sainz. But for the most part, it was a very clean lap 1.
Which I'm surprised about.
Yeah, me too, because he's so much congestion like those first couple of turns.
Based off of last year's start. I think there was 3 safety cars last year.
Yeah, it was a ton.
Two race restarts.
Couple red flags.
2 race restarts. So you had three starts. Could you imagine?
Yeah, it was almost like a 2.5 hour race last year.
It was long. It was a long race. But yeah, no. For the most part, it was a really clean start. And then coming in, like Checo covered, I think, all the lap times up until he pitted.
Yep.
Which was lap 16, I believe, when he pitted right before the Latifi safety car, which totally screwed him because
it turned the race over.
Yeah, and if you look at the lap times, he had everyone covered by like 0.2. He was 2 tenths up on Leclerc for the majority of that time. So he was, I think he was definitely deserving of that race win. Definitely got robbed. I understand that's racing and shit happens, but I definitely don't want to take any discredit, or I don't want him to take any discredit for, that pole lap that he put in that in the qualifying round, and just the race pace in general that he had that weekend at Jeddah was unreal.
Yeah, he had almost a 2.5 or 3 second lead on Leclerc when he did make the pit stop.
Yeah, he was flying,
and it was cool to hear like the over the radio like exchange, because we heard Leclerc first of all was thinking about going to the pits with Ferrari.
Yeah, the bluff,
and then Red Bull came in and pitted instead. Leclerc stays out. I love that exchange too. That's always like whatever they do the opposite.
Yes,
you hear that all the time in racing now.
Yep.
So if you don't want to try and get the overcut, do the opposite. Try and get the undercut, do the opposite.
Yep.
So Leclerc puts a flyer out there, and then right when Checo makes his pit stop, half a lap later, the Latifi crash puts everything down to a snail's pace.
Yep.
Everyone can go make their pit stops at half the time. Checo comes back out in P4.
He was P3.
Was it P3?
He was P3, and then he did a lap because him and Sainz.
Yeah.
Sainz came out of the pit before him, and I guess if someone comes out of the pit lane before you, they have the right to that spot. If they're ahead of you before the pit line,
it's like a race to the line. Whoever gets past that line first
gets the position. So
Checo was like, they said half a meter or something.
Barely
behind.
Barely.
So he pulled ahead of Sainz, thinking that he made the right spot.
Yeah.
Sainz thought he got it. Again, kind of annoying that the FIA didn't change that during the safety car.
Yeah.
Because it's as quick as simple as looking at the replay and say, okay, whose car touched the line first? Just make the switch around before the actual restart of the race.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't you just do that? Like it makes way much more sense to do that.
Yes.
Safer too.
I found another. I was listening just during the race. One of the commentators was saying this wasn't the Crofty feed, the international feed. This was that other one. I didn't find that international feed until after the race, so I missed that whole race with Crofty. I was so upset because I love listening to that guy.
Yeah, he's good.
So much more than these duds that are on the other one. But yeah, they were saying that if a driver overtakes like off track, say it's not an illegal overtake, but say he overtakes you off the track, and yet it's up to his discretion actually during the race to give the spot back. It's not a mandatory thing. It's completely up to him. They've changed it. Instead of the team ordering that spot back or him having to give it back because the stewards deem it have to give it back, what they'll do is they'll just let him race, and it's completely up to the driver's discretion to let them overtake. And then at the end of it, they'll review, and then it goes to the stewards. So pretty much the whole duration of the race, think anything can happen.
Yeah, it's a spicy meatball, man.
Yeah.
Like, why would you...
That's what the FIA changed that rule this year.
Why do they make it so complicated? Just make it clear cut.
I don't know.
Like, again, I think...
Either way, you should give the spot back.
I did hear that...
It's like in golf.
What do you mean?
It's like in golf, like if you like fucking move your ball.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, I didn't move it. And then you shoot like, you're 79 when you really shot 80.
I think I did hear also on the broadcast, they're saying how you can't overtake during a safety car, but it's not an overtake where you're driving to overtake the person. You're being ordered to like pass somebody. I'm saying like if we were just regular, like I'm P10, you're P9.
Okay.
And we're under safety car, I can't pass you. Like obviously, because you're under safety car.
Makes sense.
But they also said like they can't make the drivers, even if it's an order from the stewards, they still can't overtake on a safety car. So I guess they actually couldn't do the signs over Checo because it was during a safety car.
Oh,
like for positioning.
Oh, you're saying it like so after the safety car. That's why Checo gave the position back to Sainz.
Yeah. So
okay, I see what you're saying.
So that's what I'm saying though. I don't get why they can't make it in real time. Like, okay, it's a safety car. We're all going slower.
Yeah, just do it.
We reviewed it. Sainz gets the place.
They let the lap cars pass. What's the difference?
I know, that's what I mean. I don't understand how that works because again, like it did happen where Checo did get the spot over, but it was during the course of the race where again it was like we seen last year at Jeddah. Max was ordered to give the place back. Hamilton and Max, had their little hissy fit.
Oh yeah.
Max gets rear-ended during an overtake that he's allowing Hamilton to make, and then all hell breaks loose. If they were making this call right now, the call they should have made just last race under safety car avoids that completely from happening.
Yeah.
Because
I see what you're saying.
Like if Checo lets him go past, let's say like going into like a turn somewhere, and they make contact, who gets like maybe there's miscommunication. That would completely be avoided under safety car.
I agree.
So like, why not just get it done before you begin racing under green flags again?
Yeah, it's more. You're just saying in general. You're saying it's more cautious that way.
100%. You're under caution.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
Make
Definitely pass.
Make a cautious move.
I agree with that. We should send a letter. We should write a letter.
I'm gonna write a letter.
I'm gonna write a letter. And then lap 16 to 14. That was just pure adrenaline. I think when I was watching pure racing, adrenaline. I could only imagine Otmar Safnauer is probably still having heart palpitations from it. Guy's not in the best shape either.
Nah.
But the Alpine duel is what we're talking about between Fernando Alonso and Ocon.
Really cool.
That was sweet. It was great to see the drivers like putting the car to the test kind of thing, right? And I have this like weird theory. I'm like, before the race, I bet you they saw each other and like, hey buddy, I fucking bet you $100 I beat you tonight. Those guys are brave, like, oh, I bet you 10 grand, but like, they're like, I bet you I beat you tonight.
In team betting.
Yeah, like exactly. Well, okay, well, not like that. Just between driver to driver.
Still, yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I just have this weird theory. I'm just like, oh, that's probably what they did. Fernando Alonso seems like a fun guy too.
Mm-hmm.
Probably does it.
Yeah, he just loves to drive. He loves to race.
It's awesome.
And I think you said it before. Like, your biggest competitor is your teammate.
For sure.
Like, you could have, your Max and Lewis battle, maybe your Max and Leclerc battle this year.
When it comes down to it, they're in the same car. They're matched to you 100%. So whoever's better, that's your opponent.
Because that's always your comparison, right?
Yeah.
That's always your
From a driver's standpoint, it's your opponent. From a team standpoint, those are your players. So you're on the same team, obviously, right?
Because when it comes down to it, I mean, these guys don't all sign huge max contracts.
No.
They're under 1, 2, 3 year contracts. So if let's say they're both under 2 year contracts.
You need to perform. And
they're coming up to, become a free agent, whatever it is. You got to beat your teammate or else they're obviously going to take the other guy.
Yeah. That kind of goes without saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's you're losing your job. Yeah. You losing your seat is losing your job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, I mean, if a guy, especially like Checo and Max, like if Checo has this opportunity to shine and, even just do super well for Red Bull, at least he can show other teams that are bigger, like maybe one day Mercedes or whatever, like Alpine or Ferrari, who knows? You're showing these big teams that you can handle it racing at Red Bull, and that you have the pace and that you have the stamina to race for a high level team like that.
Yeah, like his first 6-7 seasons was kind of like an audition.
Yeah,
and then his last season in Racing Point, when he was becoming a free agent, was his interview.
And
his last race,
the hiring process.
His last race,
it's a long fucking process.
When he got his first win in Bahrain, that was his acceptance letter saying, "Bring me to Red Bull. I'm the fucking guy. Like, I put in all my work, all my effort. This is what I can do. Sign me up to the big squad."
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about how, the new cars, new regulations allow tighter driving, closer driving, and we saw it a little bit in Bahrain, not as much like back and forth kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this duel between the Alpine cars is awesome. What they want to have happen, because we've seen so many times where two cars are driving or racing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
One guy hits a DRS straight, gets past him, and then he moves on and gains 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Now it's back and forth.
Yeah. You got your Alpine, who they're just like, guys, stop racing like this. This is just horrifying. You guys are going to crash the cars. We're going to get 2 DNFs. We're going to have to pay millions of dollars to repair the cars. And then you have the FIA saying, this is what we fucking want. This is prime example. This is perfect. Keep it up.
You have your audience saying this is what we want too.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want, it's amazing to see, the speed and the pace of cars. So you have to be able to hit a DRS and then go past. But you're gaining 12 kilometers an hour on a straight. That's great. They, invented that, years and years ago to allow for better passing opportunities.
Yes.
Now with the new regulations, that's still there. Their cars still get passed on those straights, but they don't pull away 5 seconds.
No, the car, it's easier for them to follow.
That's what it is. And when they first started saying that with the cars, I didn't totally understand what they meant. Easier to follow.
That's exactly what it meant. After the DRS, it doesn't, like when the car passes you with the DRS and he gets up and he pulls in front of you, all that air is just throwing you around, so it's hard. And you don't get DRS back right away, right?
Right, yeah.
So what that allows it to do is the air shut up, so it's like, oh, he passed me a DRS. You saw with Charles and Max in Bahrain, and even at Saudi. You know what I mean? Like Leclerc lets Verstappen go by on the DRS. I think it was before the last turn, and then the final turn, the final straight. Leclerc comes back. He's like, well, I know I can follow him. I can keep this pace with him up until the final straight. And then you fire the DRS on. And then you could see even at the end when Verstappen he had DRS, then he just kind of like backed off a little bit. He's like, okay, I can follow him now because the cars can follow easier.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I think of years have passed. It's like if you hit one DRS straight, you're gone.
Yeah.
And like that's that guy. That's that position. It's gone now.
Yeah, but now you can fight for it.
It's back and forth. It's more fighting, more competitive. And I love it because we just haven't seen this before. And for the FIA and for everyone to get together and say this is how we want it to be, and for the teams to be on board, and I think for the drivers, for the most part, to also be like majority on board, because now it gives them more opportunity, right? Like let's say I mean, we'll get past this battle and we'll go to the Hamilton-Magnussen battle. Whoever thought this was going to happen, even like last year? Like, yeah, the cars are different last year completely, but now you're seeing a Mercedes with Hamilton and a Haas with Magnussen going back and forth, tilt to tilt. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, the FIA is just splurging right now. They love it. They're super happy.
I mean, they've gotten shit on before. So, like, again, I'll say it one time. FIA, good job. Like,
I will completely agree with all these changes this year.
They seem like they're doing the trick. They're doing a good job.
It's good. And so far, I mean, I know we're only 2 races in. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. But after the 2 races, it just looks great.
But it's also 2 races where, like, not much happened.
No.
Like, obviously, this past race, like, the big excitement was the last like 4 or 5 laps. That's what it came down to.
Yeah.
But throughout the course of the race, like, nothing crazy happened. Yeah, the Checo, pit stop happened. That just kind of flipped the table a little bit. But most races, like from years before, we don't see many. Oh, like lap 27 is like a really important lap because like there's a battle between 12th and 11th place.
Yeah, now it was a battle between 1st and 2nd place.
But it's also like a battle between 12th and 11th place, and then it's like a DRS straight happens, and the guy's gone.
Yeah.
And it lasts like 1 lap.
Yeah.
These are battles that are lasting 10, 12 laps. Like the Alpine battle was, 8 laps. Hamilton-Magnussen duel like took a couple laps, like they were going back and forth.
Yeah. Usually
it's like a 1 lap and you're kind of gone. You can hit entire like highlight package of just overtakes from DRS and be done in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I like when you watch they'll pan to someone like doing overtakes. Say for example, it was when Alonso passed Ocon, and then you literally see the leaderboard change, and then it changes again because they came back so quick. You're like, oh my god, he just took the position back. It's fucking awesome.
I love it. And then it also, the cool part is too, like allows other cars to follow as well behind that because during that Alpine battle, Bottas was creeping in the weeds.
Snake in the grass.
He's like, yo, I'm gonna sneak in on this shit.
Yeah, he's smart. He's cooling his tires. He's keeping them like preserved, ready for the fight. You got Alpine. Also, yeah, think about the fighting. They're just like taking the life out of their tires like crazy, right? Actually, I think at one point Fernando Alonso locked up on the straight because Ocon covered him off on the left because he was going to take the inside in turn 1. Yeah, that was pretty sick. That duel, probably one of the more epic ones we've seen, and it lasted. Well, lasted 8 laps.
Yeah, almost 10 laps.
Pretty sweet.
And again, it allows for more exciting racing because to the casual fan, you tune in and I know people that just like tune in for the highlights afterwards. They don't even watch the actual race because
I don't know.
Nothing happens in the mid 20 laps. Let's just say like nothing really happens, or you skip through because like you don't really care. You watch the start for 2 laps and then you watch the end for 5 laps.
But watching something live happen.
Oh, I know. That's why I love it.
So much better.
I can't not watch live. Kelly's just like, oh, why don't you record it? I'm like, I can't do that. I've never recorded. Maybe once or twice I've recorded something. Can't do it.
Yeah, we also are going to be watching the Australian Grand Prix in 2 weeks, live time.
Yeah.
So we have qualifying at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. Or no, Friday. Yeah, Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
And then the Grand Prix is at 1 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Woof.
We are going to be recording our podcast also we're going to do a qualifying podcast and a race podcast. We're going to have 2 for you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, so up to lap 16, we had that big duel between your Alpines and that, great 16 laps actually from Checo and the 2-4 at the front. But yeah, lap 16, the Latifi crash, not surprised. Lecrash, he's horrible.
Lecrash.
In the wall. I can't turn around the final corner. I'm just wasting millions of dollars on my team.
Is that 3 wrecks in 3 races dating back to last year?
I bet you
on the last turn.
I bet you he crashes 6 more times this year for fun.
Matches his race number.
Yeah, there you go.
Repping the 6, Latifi.
I didn't even think of that.
Repping it real hard.
I didn't even think of that.
Straight up.
Yeah, he's horrible. He's just fucking horrible. Like, get out of there, man.
I know. I mean,
you don't. I understand you're not driving the best car, but you can't crash the fucking car twice. You crash it in quali.
Yeah.
You crash it in the fucking race. You crash in Bahrain.
And the commentators were saying, I think it was
that's 3 races in a row.
The Jensen Button they had on.
It is 3 races in a row.
Yeah, dating back to last year. Yeah, all on the last turn.
What is wrong with this guy?
I don't know.
Fellow Canadian, I get it. Hey man, how are you? But
come on the pod.
Figure it out, dude.
Yeah. Jensen Button came out and said it was because he got onto the gas too quick after the turn. Like got on the throttle too fast.
Yeah.
So he's just being a little impatient with the car, I think. or maybe he thinks he thinks the car has like the handling to get around the turn and then get on the gas real quick.
But it doesn't.
But it just doesn't. I mean, again,
I don't know, but I just find it funny that you always see that guy in the wall.
I know.
All the time.
And it's tough because...
It's like, oh, Latifi crashed again.
It's tough because I think, like, you race so many laps, obviously, and it's, like, literally a 1 second thing. Like, your time is off by 1 second.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I mean, it happens. We don't see it happen all the time, clearly. You know, the top 10 don't do that for a reason. The top 15 drivers don't do that for a reason.
The top 19 drivers don't do that for a reason.
Hello. But, I don't know. I think it's just... You can't really say it's an experience. You can't really say it's poor, you know, vehicle, because Albon hasn't wrecked yet. Albon's finished.
I'm just going to say, you can say it. You can say that he's not a good driver. What has he done in his entire Formula One career that has made your eyes and your brain explode?
He's in the bottom tier.
Bottom tier?
Yeah.
Like dead last?
Of like 3 or 4.
I'm going to call him like
20th.
20th on the grid.
I can't name many drivers that are worse off than him right now. I can't. I'm trying to think. The only other one that comes to mind.
He's got 2 DNFs this year.
The one that comes to mind, unfortunately, is Lance Stroll, a fellow Canadian. Like, maybe we just can't drive, man.
Still crap. I mean, I guess it's not in their nature.
Maybe if they're driving in like Yellowknife or something on some ice, they might be a little bit better.
Yeah, they should go do rally cars.
Hey, that might be not bad.
Well, it's more of that taste. I mean, you're drifting around. You can't. You're trying. Yeah, it's wider
tracks. Don't have to. It's on a wall. Trying to.
Yeah, you're doing like you're driving in a forest, which is actually still pretty sketchy. Rally car is pretty
terrifying.
It's insane. They're jumping the car.
I know.
It's insane.
I've seen some cars go like into the crowd before.
Yeah, but obviously the biggest thing, the turnout of the Latifi crash, was Checo getting sent down to P4 for the duration of the race.
Yeah, which
sucked. And you know what was crazy? How you were saying Jeddah is a high-speed track. The average speed of the fastest driver, who was Charles Leclerc, was 242 kilometers an hour.
Average speed. Yeah, because like there's like
that is insane.
Other than the hairpin at the end, going down like the main straight, there's not many slow corners at this track.
No.
So you're
flat
throttle,
out.
Yeah.
You're flat out. 200. Could you imagine an average speed going 242 kilometers an hour?
It's terrifying.
It's insane.
I think they said when Mick had his wreck in Q2, it was he was pulling like 30 Gs.
33 Gs when he hit the wall.
33 Gs on the wreck, like over a turn, over a corner. Like he got tailspinned obviously and like whipped into the corner or into the wall, but
he hit so hard, man.
33 Gs into a corner, man.
I thought it was kind of hilarious. I don't know why I thought it was funny, but when they're like they had the grade all lifting up the car, and then the whole rear end just see
like
you later.
Slingshot, like
Gunther's the fucking wankers.
Like a catapult.
Fuck, I loved it. It was hilarious.
So after that, it was a very much again like
it was a pretty dry race after that.
Dry race.
I mean, it wasn't dry watching it live. I just still think it's fascinating watching the cars. Just looks like they're just jumping through the corners sometimes because they're going so fast.
And going to this track too, only the second time they've been there at Jeddah. Maybe some of the drivers or some of the fans aren't used to seeing it. It's not really a passing track. Like this isn't what F1 really is always going to be like. The Bahrain track, yeah, it's pretty good for passing. Like the main straight, you see a lot of overtakes there. This one, not so much. For the F1 fans that are kind of newer to it, just wait. The tracks will show up. And Azerbaijan will show up. Monza will show up. Miami?
I'm excited for Miami.
Oh, next year.
This year. That's this year. The Miami track, that's happening this year.
I thought it was next year.
Dude, they're building a fucking pool in the middle of the track with I think there's going to be boats in there.
Well, that's dangerous.
I saw like this like kind of like architectural drawing kind of thing. It's pretty sweet.
That's got safety hazard
also,
all over it.
If we were ever thinking, just super random, but if we were ever thinking of who we should replace Latifi, I definitely recommend Roman DeAngelis.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to the local boy from Windsor.
Yeah.
You definitely do a better job than that guy. Clearly, I don't see you wrecking your fucking car. He races for the Harder Racing Aston Martin F1 team. It's a GP series, I believe. But yeah, super cool. If you guys know him, give him a follow. I'm sure everyone that's listening to this podcast has heard the name in one way.
Yep.
Great guy. And follow his career because you never know. He could end up there, and I'm pulling for him. Take Latifi's spot.
Is he like your age? Around your age?
He's my sister's age.
He's really
he's
young.
in 02.
Wow.
Or no, 2001.
So he's got time to grow still.
Yes.
Like I know he's doing some pretty good stuff. I see him like play some podiums, but he's got time to still like grow and actually become.
Yeah, he's a big kid.
Next
I think
driver.
he's like 6'1". He'd probably be the tallest kid, tallest guy on the F1 circuit.
No, I think it's taller than 6'1".
Dude, he's tall.
George
If you've seen this
George
kid,
Russell's like 6'3", man.
Is he
He
6'3"?
could be a point guard.
Yeah, he could be a point guard.
Point guard.
Anyway, we'll get back to it. But yeah, shout out Roman.
Let's get him on the pod.
Yeah, I actually messaged him one time. I was thinking about it.
He's
Getting him on. No, he said he'd do it, but we want to get a little more established, I think. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to be asking him? Oh, how's school? We'll figure it out. We'll get you on here. Don't worry, Roman.
What's the weather like? I'm from Windsor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, so like we were saying before, the lap from 16 to, what was it, when it was Leclerc and the Verstappen battle, 43. From lap 24, you had the Hamilton and Magnussen duel, which was awesome. Actually, there was some big news. Yeah. Well, it wasn't really big because it wasn't much that happened really.
Yeah.
It was just like the curse of the Jeddah track. We're talking about lap 36 when 3 drivers retired. Yeah. You had Alonso, Ricciardo, and Bottas. You're just like, what the hell happened? Did a ghost just fly over the track and just shut all these engines off and just end it?
So from my perspective, going just from our F1 fantasy on the Bruzzen fantasy league,
that was an upset.
It was a bit of an upset, but I had Bottas as like one of my drivers that I picked.
Yep.
So he was sitting around in like P8 for a while, P9, and I saw him go to the pits for mediums with 20 laps left or 15 laps left, and I was like, damn, like Bottas is gonna make some moves here. It's a good spot. And then I saw a caution flag come out, and I was like,
no way.
Yes. He's pitting under caution. He got the jump on it.
Oh, but he was pitting because
it was his caution.
He's the yellow flag. You are the yellow flag.
It was his caution. So I think he came out for one. I think he did like one lap.
Yeah.
And then his car just shut off. So he had to go in the pits. And then he began the train of caution flags. And then it was, I think, Alonso.
It was Alonso and then Ricciardo. Alonso was limping towards the pit lane. I think he wasn't stuck.
Yeah.
It looked like he was stuck in 4th gear. Just saw from what I saw on the TV.
Yeah, he was just cruising in Ricciardo.
I thought he was going to stop on track. I'm like, are we going to get another safety car? Which would actually have spiced it up at the front. Because then you would have packed up your Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, and Perez.
And for that to happen too, Hamilton got the jump. I think he got a big advantage because he was probably around P14 for a while. And then with all this happening, I think he was in the prime spot to get into the pits at the beginning of the caution. Mm-hmm. So he actually got that I think it was a virtual safety car.
No.
So I think he got in.
Hamilton didn't get in during that. Hamilton was driving by.
Oh, he just missed
Bono
was
like box, and he's like, oh fuck, man. He's like, it's too late.
But he did come out
and then
time to get it.
When he came, well, no, because he drove through and they closed the pit lane. They closed the pit lane. What's that?
What am I talking about then?
No, they closed the pit lane entry. They didn't allow you to pit.
Am I taking crazy pills?
When the race restarted, they're like, okay, Lewis, pit right away.
Oh, okay. Well, he did get a jump though.
They got him to pit as soon as the pit lane was open, which was when the race restarted after the VSC.
And also too, the 3 guys that retired were all 3 ahead of him. So he did obviously get a 3-place.
Yeah, and Magnussen pitted, I think, at the same time as him.
Mm-hmm.
I think around that because they started on hard, so they were pretty much on the same tire strategy for the longest part of the race.
Yeah.
So if you're at lap 36 was how long those hard tires lasted them. And then they both went on mediums. Or did Magnussen go back on hards? I don't remember. They went on a new. I don't think they went back on hards. I'm almost positive they went.
Yeah, I think it's around lap 40 they ended up making the change or something, or 38, whatever it was.
Whenever the VSC ended.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So
swap. But he did get spots. He did get spots.
I don't know what's going on with actually those are all 3 different powertrains.
I was just going to say that.
So you have your Alpine, who it's tough for them to kind of gauge what's wrong with the car because they don't see it on any other power units. You don't see any other Alpine Renault ran car retiring, right?
Yep.
So you see one problem with Fernando, you're like, oh shit, Esteban's probably going to have the same problem.
That was the Red Bull thing last race.
Exactly.
Gasly go out.
Gasly goes, and then you're like,
Verstappen goes, Checo goes.
Yeah. By the way, that was a vacuum problem. For the people that didn't read it, I guess there was a fuel pump vacuum issue, and it's basically sucking the fuel out of the tank.
Fuel sucker.
I don't know where would it go then?
In the atmosphere?
Just not into the chamber, the combustion chamber. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It was a vacuum issue, so
that
they got to take those shop vacs out of those engines or whatever. I don't fucking know.
That sucks.
That does suck. It sucks fuel.
Idiot.
And then Ricciardo retiring was just another Mercedes problem.
Yep.
Bottas, Ferrari. But I guess Bottas and Joe, Bottas had a hard time last race off the start too. There was a clutch problem. Joe had the same problem, which was a clutch problem. So there's maybe something going on with the Alpine. We're not sure what it was. I guess the engine still worked for Bottas, but to prevent further damage, they retired the car.
There's
less money spent.
There's a lot of kinks in the car still.
Yeah, we're just starting out. This is the second race.
And it's not like years in past where they're just like, revamping the car a little bit, like adding little minor improvements here and there. They're rebuilding cars for this year.
Yeah.
So clearly there's going to be some manufacturing problems, some reliability problems here and there.
Yeah.
Amongst all teams. We've basically seen it already amongst all teams. Like what car has been running flawless so far this season?
The Haas. It has been.
Only Haas, really.
There hasn't been any problems with it except for in preseason testing.
I mean, Aston Martin is just kind of poo-poo.
But you don't hear much about that.
There's not really problems going on with that.
I want Vettel back. I want to see how Vettel can do with this Aston Martin because clearly Stroll can't do anything. Hulkenberg is just a scrub. That's why he's not racing in Formula 1. So I want to see Vettel back. I really want to see what the Aston Martin can do because I think it's got more capability than what the two ding-dongs that are driving it put into it.
I agree. And I think I saw on Twitter today Hulkenberg announced, like, thanks for my trial basically with Aston Martin. I think he's going to be. I think Vettel's going to be back for next race.
Thanks for coming. Don't come back.
Yeah, I think it was like, I think he said something like, "Thanks for my return to F1 like 3.0 or something." Because he's raced for 3 different teams, like coming back. So like he's on call. He's there.
He's the floater.
Yeah, he's a floater. So yeah, that lap 36 stuff. It spiced it up a little bit.
And then there was actually some yellow sectors. Sector 1. There was a yellow flag when Leclerc and Verstappen were battling it out. I think so Albon drove into Stroll, and then Albon had to retire because like his tire, I don't think his front left was turning. I think, you know what, that actually gave Max the advantage because he was in the lead. But if you're looking at the pace that the Ferrari had through the first sector was way faster than the Red Bull. I think they were up 0.3 in the first sector for the most part. But the Red Bull through the second and third was just way more raw power. But yeah, so if that yellow flag in the sector 1, which means you have to decrease speed. And that's why Max was complaining. I also think Max complained way too much that race.
Yeah, he does.
Like, come on, dude.
I mean, I think every driver does because it's like, why is this
I understand that,
here?
but it's like, you're not making any mistakes, really.
Well, when do you ever hear a driver say, "Oh yeah, that was my bad"? It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah, I know. Understandable.
And with Max being able to outlast the Ferraris in sectors 2 and 3, that's kind of been Red Bull's like bread and butter for their entire
I don't know what it is. There's sector 2 and 3.
It's their chassis, baby. It's just that Red Bull chassis, the Red Bull Aero is so good. And that's why
That's why they
just do so well on street tracks, I think, because like the Monacos, the Singapores, even Canada, which is like Canada has like we have our straights, but still a street track technically.
Yep.
The Red Bull car is just like supreme on those kind of tracks because there might be one long DRS straight on a specific track, but then the rest 85% of the race, it's turns, it's in and outs, it's tight corners, it's like fast and slow. It's a mixture of everything, and the Red Bull just performs like beautifully under those conditions.
Yeah, it's a very versatile car for the types of tracks that are on the circuit.
Yeah, so for the Ferrari to be supreme in like 33% of the track on like the power straights, that's great. That's where you can make your advantage up a little bit. Red Bull comes back the other 66% of the race.
Yeah. And
that's how like Verstappen was able to catch Leclerc after the caution. That's how Checo was able to, get the victory or get the pole position like he did in qualifying. And just coming down the last couple laps of the race, that exchange between Leclerc and Verstappen was kind of like, it was an ode to what happened last week in Bahrain. Them going back and forth, tilt for tilt. Love to see it. Hilarious how they both like locked up in the last straight because going into the last turn. Going into the second last turn, it's a DRS straight.
Yep.
Then it's the hairpin, and then the next DRS straight down the main straight. So it's really strategic to who's going to overtake who going into the hairpin. Yeah. Because then coming back on the straight,
you have a straight DRS.
You have the DRS if you're in second place, and if you hold that position, if you pass on that first DRS straight down the main drag race to the first corner, you're not going to get overtaken really until the last DRS straight again. before the main straight again.
Yes.
So if you have that advantage, you're golden.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious to see them go back and forth because basically you want to be in first place on the very last lap. And these guys are race car drivers. They want to pass people. That's what they want to do.
Eager.
So for Leclerc to, play a little bit more strategy game than I think Max was.
Yep.
The first couple times that they did it. And then Max finally clicked in. Oh yeah, maybe I should not pass him on the last straight.
Yeah.
Before the main one.
Mm-hmm.
That was hilarious. Good battle.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of cool. They did the same sort of thing in Bahrain last week. But either way, it's just smart driving. You never really seen anything like that. You don't see DRS strategy kind of thing. So actually, last time we saw a DRS strategy was I think last year Saudi Arabia when Max let Lewis pass.